Well, good afternoon and welcome. Delighted that you all are joining us. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Keith Newman. I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Executive Officer for Residential Education here at Indiana Wesleyan University. It's a delight to represent our president, Dr. David Wright, and announce to you that today Indiana Wesleyan University's Board of Trustees voted to approve the administration's recommendation to add football as a varsity sport for a proposed start date of the fall of 2018. IW, a member of the National Association for Intercollegiate Athletics, currently offers 17 athletic programs and is a member of the Crossroads League. From the president, after careful and thorough study and consideration of the benefits of adding to our athletic program, we're pleased to announce that IW Board of Trustees approved the addition of football as our 18th intercollegiate sport. Their affirmation of this significant new initiative demonstrates their recognition and appreciation of the sustained mission and excellence of our athletic program. We're grateful for the many ways our athletic program fulfills our mission to develop students in character, scholarship, and leadership, and we are eager to welcome and support these new athletes who will join us in the very near future. I want to express my personal appreciation to our Director of Athletics, Mark DeMichael, who has led the study, has invested hundreds, perhaps thousands of hours of work in this initiative, and has just done a great job. Having sat through the conversations, the deliberations by the Board of Trustees, I will tell you that this decision is representative of a great faith, a great belief in not only our Director of Athletics, but all of our coaches and our athletes here at Indiana Wesleyan University. We love how they represent us in the classroom, outside the classroom, on courts, in restaurants, in hotels, everywhere they go. And so in many ways, the decision to add football was an easy one when it comes to representation. Much more difficult as you consider all of the ramifications involving finances and all of the pieces that go together to putting together a successful football program. But we believe that history and our personnel are on our side, and we're very, very excited about the future. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to our Director of Athletics, Mark DeMichael, to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Newman. Thanks, everyone, for being here today for the announcement of the beginning of intercollegiate football at Indiana Wesleyan University. Before I talk about some of the details and open it up for questions, I do have some thank yous that I want to share here in a public forum. First of all, to our president, Dr. Wright. It takes a lot of faith and a lot of courage on the part of a president to invest in any program that's as big as intercollegiate football. So the confidence that he's showing in us as an athletic department, in the mission of IW Athletics, is very meaningful. So I want to thank him. Thank Dr. Newman, who just finished talking, for his support. It's been a lot of work, and he has been right there the entire process through all the studies, the data, the athletic director needing words of wisdom and encouragement and guidance through the process. He was always there. I want to thank him for that. To the Board of Trustees for their confidence in IW Athletics, for their commitment to the mission of IW Athletics, for the belief in what we're doing, and their belief in our student athletes and the type of young people that IW Athletics graduates and sends out into the world. It's very meaningful to us. Collegiate Consulting and Russell Wright. Collegiate Consulting out of Atlanta, Georgia, was the company that we hired to work side by side in the beginning phases of our strategic plan that included the initial study on football. I want to thank them for their help and professionalism along the way. And as Dr. Newman said, I want to thank our current coaches and student athletes and support staff. This would not have been approved at any level if the product that's being turned out daily from IW Athletics, from our coaches, from our programs, was not top of the line. And we have a group of coaches, head coaches and assistant coaches, who are completely committed to serving the Lord through athletics, the mission of mentoring spiritually, athletically, and academically the student athletes that come here, and turning out a product on the field, off the field, in the classroom that is an incredibly high level. So I want to thank them for showing this is what IW Athletics is about, so that when we add a program, we know that this is the standard that we expect all of our programs to meet, and football will meet that when we get it up and running because of the excellence that our head coaches, coaching staff, and student athletes have established in IW Athletics, so I want to thank them. I want to give you a brief history of the process that has led us to this point. As Dr. Newman said, in September of 2010, then President Dr. Smith formed a Blue Ribbon Commission to begin the first study of adding intercollegiate football in our athletic department. After a year-long study by the Blue Ribbon Commission, the decision was made that yes, they believed that football would be a positive addition to Indiana Wesleyan University, but with the upcoming beginning of our health sciences initiative, felt that it was not the right time to use university resources to invest in something like football, that instead the resources needed to be geared towards health sciences. So at that point, football was put on the back burner. 2 years ago, Dr. Wright asked for a strategic plan in intercollegiate athletics to be begun. That's when we hired Collegiate Consulting out of Atlanta to help us put together a 10-year strategic plan for athletics, which would include looking at additional sports possibilities and what could we do to expand the offerings of intercollegiate sports at Indiana Wesleyan University, with a couple of initiatives in mind. Number one, to expand the mission. Number two, to increase enrollment, male enrollment specifically. And thirdly, to increase diversity in our student athletes. So after a multi-month study with collegiate consultants, they came back and recommended that we begin look at consideration of adding intercollegiate football to our athletics offerings, as well as women's swimming, which I'll remind you we will be beginning this fall and are currently in the search for our first head coach of women's swimming and diving team. From there, we moved forward after the recommendation. I've been studying all of the different ramifications of adding football as an intercollegiate sport. And as many of you know, especially the local media, we have been conversing with the board, had multiple meetings with the board and the administration over the last year or so talking about that. And we're happy that it was put to a vote today, and they have given us the green light to move forward with adding football. Our timeline for football, for those of you who are interested, we will begin the search process for our first head coach immediately. We will begin posting that sometime in the month of April, and we'll begin reaching out and looking for that first head coach. As you might probably can assume, the single most important step in the process of building a successful program in any sport is the leadership of that sport. And that choice of choosing our first head football coach for IW football will be the critical decision in the process. So we want to begin that process immediately, but we also want to go through that process with a deliberation, a prayerful deliberation, and making sure that the man or woman who is our first head football coach is the one that God has called to be here. So we'll begin that process immediately and move forward. We have no specific hiring date. I will tell you that our plan is to hire that person anytime between July of this summer and January of 2017. So we will be deliberate and thorough in that search because of the important nature of that hire. The other thing we'll begin immediately is pre-construction meetings about the IW football stadium. Along with the approval to start intercollegiate football at Indiana Wesleyan, the board has approved an amount of money from the university that will allow us to begin process of a first phase of a planned two-phase construction of a football facility on our campus. We have not chosen the site yet. We have 5 or 6 potential sites, all of which are on our campus for the site of our football stadium. We have not chosen that site yet. That will be coming within the next couple months, we hope, few months, we hope. But we will begin planning for the phase 1 of the construction process. That phase 1 will include the field itself, along with a support structure. The support structure would include locker rooms, meeting rooms, an intercollegiate athletic weight room, storage rooms, and an athletic training room for the football program. So that process will begin right away with the plan of having that construction phase completed for the fall of 2017, when our first recruiting class would enter as freshman student athletes, fall of 2017. Phase 2 of that construction would be the actual stadium construction, and that will be, the beginning of that will be based on the other thing that we'll be starting immediately, and that is an immediate fundraising campaign to begin raising funds to build the stadium portion of the football facility. We have been given funding to build the field and the support structure, and we'll be charged with raising the money to build the supporting stadium. So our goal would be obviously to raise that money as quickly as possible so that when we play our first intercollegiate football game in the fall of 2018, the full phase 1 and 2 will be completed. However, with phase 2 dependent upon fundraising, that is an indefinite or to be announced date as far as completion of a construction of a stadium. If anyone here would like to put their name on that stadium, please see me afterwards. We're open to discussions right away. Our plan as far as building the program, as soon as the first year we have our head coach, which would be hired, as I said, at the latest January of 2017. The coach will be charged with recruiting the first class of minimum 50 recruited freshman student athletes for the fall of 2017. That would be what we're calling the redshirt year. Those 50 student athletes, we would not field a team that year. They would all be redshirted, and it would be a year of practice with the head coach and the staff that we would have hired at that point. Then that we would expand the roster from 50 to a minimum of 80 for the fall of 2018. And that fall of 2018 would be our first year of actually fielding a varsity intercollegiate football team and playing actual NAI-sanctioned football games. Then by the fall of 19, that's when we would expect our roster to be at the full minimum of 105 student athletes, and everything would be up running at 100% and would be the program that we would sustain and maintain for eternity, IW football. With that in mind, I do want to say that what we're looking to achieve with the football program, as I mentioned before, first and foremost, I want to make it very clear, and this is, I believe, the heart of our president and our board, as well as Dr. Newman, is this is about mission. This is about what has God called us to do as Indiana Wesleyan University. And we are so blessed to have head coaches in our department right now that first are experts in their field, are master leaders, are master tacticians in their sport, are master motivators for young college student athletes, but first and foremost, they are men and women of God who have been called to a ministry through coaching in college. And that mission has enabled them to be used by God to turn out incredible young men and women who are going out into the world serving God in whatever profession He has called them to do. That is why we are adding football first and foremost, because it gives us an opportunity to do that with 105 more young men. That's our mission, and that's why we're doing this first and foremost. And after that, I will say we are here to help the university to make Indiana Wesleyan stronger and more sustainable. And so adding 105 to 130 more student athletes, more students and student athletes who will excel in the classroom is a great long-term thing for Indiana Wesleyan University. And lastly, we want, but not least, we want to reflect God's kingdom as a university. And God's kingdom is a diverse kingdom. And so the opportunity to offer a sport that will allow us to bring more diverse student population to our athletic program in the university is something that we're extremely excited about and looking forward to seeing how God uses that. So that is the information I would share with you today, and I'd like to open up now for questions from anyone in attendance.
Mark, I have 3 questions. Number 1, this is April Fool's Day, but this is no joke, correct? This is coming.
You got me, Steve.
Okay.
No, this is that is a very good question. I should have led with that, actually. This is not an April Fool's. I'll look straight in the camera. This is not an April Fool's joke. This is for real. It's ironic. I was sharing with someone at the town hall meeting where the president just made the announcement. It was 5 years ago, that I last had to get up at a town hall meeting following the Board of Trustees meetings to announce that we had studied football and we would not be moving forward with football or a move to NCAA Division II. And that actually was the last year that the town hall meeting fell on April Fool's Day. So here we are 5 years later, and ironically, we're talking about football again on April Fool's Day. But there's no joke here.
All right. 2-part question about the search for the head coach. There are companies out there now that actually assist universities and colleges in finding a head coach.
Right.
Are you going to be leading the search committee for this with a committee within the university, or are you going to be looking elsewhere for advice in finding a head coach?
I think yes to both parts, no to the first part. We will not be hiring at this point an outside company to help with the search. We will be forming a committee that will include internal and external membership and perspectives so that we can do as thorough a search as possible. We've been blessed with an amazing group of coaches and a process that has opened doors for us to bring in an amazing group of coaches. So we believe in the process that we've been using in our head coach search process. So we're going to search for a head football coach with the same process that we search for the other ones. But we also will be making a lot of phone calls, as we already have, getting as much advice as possible to find the best candidate.
And then my last question would be, again, as far as hiring a head football coach, there are a number of head coaches out there, or were head coaches, assistant coaches that would love to come to a place like Indiana Wesleyan. Yet with that said, there aren't very many coaches that have experience in starting a program from the ground up. So what's the most important part of that to you as you look for a head coach? The experience of having started a program before, or simply the best coach you can find?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's an answer. I couldn't say at this point which is more important. I will say that experience is critical, but I will also say that the single most important aspect of our search process will be prayer, and that when you commit something, a process like this, to prayer and open and follow God's leading in decisions, sometimes those decisions don't make perfect sense to what the criteria you would put down on paper say you should. And we have head coaches right across the hallway right now that were hired that have just been amazing, that if you looked purely at resume, you would say, and compared to some of the other candidates we had for those same positions, you would say, why did you hire them? And to me, that's a reflection of the commitment to prayer and to God's leading in the search process, and that has to be the priority. So we are looking for experience, we're looking for passion, we're looking for energy, we're looking first and foremost for someone who has a calling on their hearts to follow, to buy into our mission and to be faithful to the mentoring part of what we do here. And we'll look at the whole package and then pray that the Lord opens up the door that brings the right person through that process.
Mark, with the group you work with, I'm sure they probably have statistics. Are there proven studies where there have been programs with the school that you are, the size you are, that have been able to win immediately? Is that conceivable, or, because it would seem to a lay person like myself that, boy, that first year, you're probably with young kids on that field playing against veteran players, would be a tough year. Are there examples of schools that have started up from the get-go like you have and have won immediately?
I guess it depends on how you define immediately, Jim. If you're talking about year one, no. One of the fastest tracks successful as far as winning on the scoreboard programs I've seen is in our own Crossroads League. That's Marion University down in Indianapolis. They were competing for a national championship by year 4 of their program. They took a beating in their first year. So it's hard to be competitive on the scoreboard when you start a program in any sport, let alone football, that requires so many more players to compete. So we understand it is a process. I think the key thing in building any program, Jim, is you have to build a foundation first. And a lot of times if you get impatient, for wins especially, you forget about building a solid foundation and you build a program that's weak in the foundation and it's not sustainable, and you don't get the long-term success that we're in this for. So I think while we are competitive, as you know, and we enjoy winning, as you know, when we do finally start winning on the scoreboard, we want it to be a sustained winning, which requires us to take our time, be deliberate, make sure we're building the foundation for a long-term successful program. And that will be more important than winning by year 2.
And the second question, to follow up that, I think I heard you virtually say this. You intend to have no drop-off on the rest of your program.
Yeah.
You want to continue. I think I just counted 14 consecutive years you've been the all-conference champion. You're one of the finest small college athletic programs in the country, and you do not want to have that drop off in any way, shape, or form to add football. Right.
And that, yeah, you're absolutely correct. And that goes back to 2010 when we started the Blue Ribbon Commission. When we first started that, one of the things that was made very clear from the beginning is we want to do, if we're going to do football, number one, we're going to do it right. And number 2, we're not going to do it at the expense of any of our other programs. We built IW Athletics as a comprehensive athletic program. Dr. Fratsky, when he hired me as the AD, he talked about comprehensive athletic program all the time. This program is built on being a comprehensive athletic program. That means we're committed to giving all of our student athletes in every program a chance to feel valued and a chance to have success on and off the field. So we have no interest in pulling from any of our other programs to build a successful football program. We want to do all of it. Yeah, Matt.
How many of these 105 players, how many can be on scholarship?
Oh, that'll be up to the coach. Yeah, we'll have the coach will have a scholarship budget to work with, and how that coach wants to divvy up that scholarship money to bring in the roster size of 105. That'll be their choice. As is in all our programs, all of our coaches have their scholarship budget, and they have the number that we want them to have on the roster, and how they split that up. They're autonomous to do that.
No other team can be affected by?
No,
Okay.
no. Yeah.
How many assistant coaches?
We'll have 4 full-time coaches, a head coach, and 3 full-time assistants. And then the head coach will be given a chunk of budget money to pay part-time assistant coaches. So that head coach will have the autonomy to build an assistant coaching staff based on the budget that he or she is given. So they'll be able to build that staff to look like they want to look within the budget.
That would be grad assistants?
Graduate assistants, part-time assistants, yes.
Can you go through some of the finances for us? You talked about phase 1 being already funded by the school.
Right.
Phase 2, you'll need fundraising for. You didn't mention dollar amounts with those, if we could have those. And then also, what do you anticipate would be an annual budget for the entire program,
Right.
including the scholarships?
Right. Well, we're looking at the total cost of, as we've said from the beginning of starting a football, is a $12 to $15 million startup cost. So that includes facility as well as all the startup expenses in the program. That does not include the yearly budget.
Is that over a 1-year period?
That's the startup. That's the startup cost.
Okay.
Yeah, that's buying all the equipment. That's all the processes involved, athletic training equipment, field equipment, practice equipment. That's building the facility, both phase 1 and phase 2. It's a $12 to $15 million investment. We will need to looking at $6 to $9 million raise for the stadium. The stadium itself will cost $6 to $9 million, and we look at about a $6 million startup cost, which includes the phase 1 of the construction and all of the implementation costs of starting football. And then yearly budget, not comfortable sharing that number yet. What I will share with you is that through our pro forma that we have done, extensively done, and had all of our financial experts look at multiple times, the beautiful thing of football, based on tuition revenue alone, this does not include any other alternative revenue sources like ticket sales and corporate sponsorships and all those other things you can do to generate revenue with football. Just the tuition revenue alone will draw enough revenue to support the program and actually have revenue over expense back to the university each year. So it's not a huge money maker, but it's not a money loser either as far as the operating budget is concerned yearly.
Can you tell me how many people were on this committee that finally voted on football and what the final vote was?
I can't tell you what the final vote was. I can tell you that we have full support of the Board of Trustees. I believe the Board of Trustees consists of 23 members, if I'm right. And we have the Board of Trustees, when they vote on something and approve it, they approve it as a Board of Trustees, and we have their full support to move forward with the football.
How many seats do you plan on having in the stadium?
Yeah, that's the $6 to $9 million range that we're looking at for the stadium, because we're leaving that kind of flexible as we start to work with our architect and builders. We want to leave ourselves flexibility. We're looking at a minimum of 2,500, maximum up to 4,000 or so. It'll be a typical. We'll have a 500 seat or so stadium on the visitor side, and then the home side would have the main side of the stadium and would include a press box and all that. But we're we would, at this point, there are a lot of decisions to make. You can build a metal erector set type of stadium and seat 4,000 people and have a look, or you can also spend some money on the aesthetic part of a stadium and the scoreboard and the atmosphere. One of our goals of starting football is create a Saturday event at least 6 times a year. So when you do that, then you need to design a stadium that's going to give you the opportunity to have an event. So there's more than just putting up bleachers. It's the surrounding areas. It's the aesthetics. It's where do you put concrete to have, cornhole tournaments going on. All those things that create an atmosphere that makes you, hey, this is college. This is college in America on this Saturday.
Turf field?
Yes.
And then practice field, turf?
Right now, one field, sport turf of some type. Yes, it'll be an artificial turf surface, and with that, we won't need a practice field right off the bat because it's artificial. Of one of the types of companies which we haven't decided yet, that will be our practice field as well.
Back to the football stadium for a moment. Football only?
Yes.
Or football only?
Yeah, it'll be a football only. I can't tell you the site it will be at right now, but I can tell you it won't be on one of our current fields that we're using as our game competition.
And you said there were 5 or 6 potential sites.
Mhm.
Can you go over a few of them?
All on campus. That's what I could tell you at this point. They're all on campus, yeah.
NAIA football,
Mhm.
Is it a 12-game regular season schedule like NCAA?
It's a 10 or 11 game schedule before postseason.
10 or 11?
Yes, right.
Not 12?
Not 12. And the NAI runs a full tournament more to the, similar to NCAA, 1AA, or FCS, NCAA FCS, Division II and Division III, in that it's a 16-team postseason national tournament that happens all at host sites up to the national championship game, which is at a neutral site.
And Mark, just a final, again, a question for me that came up that I was thinking about, maybe all the way back in 2010 or 2012 when all of this started. There was also talk at one time about the possibility of looking into or exploring NCAA 3 or NCAA 2 in the future. Has that pretty much been not only put on the back burner but nixed, that you're happy and you're staying where you are at NAIA?
Yes, we're extremely happy in NAI. We are not studying NCAA. Now, I will tell you, Steve, as the athletic director, part of my job is to always be monitoring the health of any of our associations, whether it's NAI or NCCAA. So that's constantly on my radar. But as far as considering leaving the NAI for NCAA Division II or looking at that, that's not on the docket. We are committed to the NAI. We're committed to the Crossroads League, and we feel like we're exactly where we belong.
You mentioned NCCAA, they have a football championship as well. Right?
They do. They have a Victory Bowl. It's a one-game invitation bowl game that they have at the end of every season that we would also be obviously eligible for once we're up and running. Yeah.
What's gonna be the process of you guys getting into the MFSA, if that's the direction you wanna go?
I've had a couple of initial conversations with the commissioner of the Mid-States Football Association. Obviously, now that we're approved and we've got a year or so, a couple of years, those conversations will intensify now. I actually have a plan to speak with the commissioner at the NAI National Convention here in a couple weeks. So that will be our initial conversation, will be Mid-States Football Association. It's a logical move for us, given that the other Crossroads League schools that do play football, they're all members of the Mid-States Football Association. Geographically, it makes the most sense for us. So we will begin those conversations in earnest now that the addition of football is official.
Do you know what division of the MFSA you're gonna be looking into?
I think that's really going to be up to them.
That's gonna be up to them.
I mean, I think right now they're broken up into two divisions geographically, east and west. So we're on the eastern edge of the footprint. So I would think that would be that, but it'd be too early for me. I'm not in a position to say that, and it would be too early for me to comment on that. Anyway.
How many teams are in that conference besides the
Uh,
Adrians and the St. Francis?
Yeah, this past year there were 10. It's varied from 10 to 12. There's been some shifting, just like at all levels of college sports, it seems these days. Conferences are always shifting in membership. So the membership has been anywhere from 10 to 12. It used to include more schools in Iowa. Some of those have moved on to other conferences, but it's a healthy one. In Indiana, we have Taylor, Marion, and St. Francis. You have Concordia up in Michigan, Siena Heights. And then you have Olivet Nazarene over in Illinois, and St. Xavier in Illinois, and several others in that area. So.
You know how you're gonna go about filling out your schedule outside of the league, as far as those non-league games, and how you're gonna go about that?
Yeah, we'll really rely on our fellow Crossroads League football playing schools to help us with what that looks like and how they're filling their schedules. I know the Mid-States Football Association has gone into a scheduling agreement with another conference. I can't remember which one it is right now to help with that, filling the non-conference schedule. So our plan would be, if we are fortunate enough to get in the Mid-States Football Association, that schedule sharing agreement would become a part of what we're doing, and we'd be able to do that pretty smoothly.
It's not been any secret that you have been exploring football. Are any of the other Crossroads League schools, other than the ones that already play football, are any of them in this stage at all, or are they right now all not interested in football?
You know, I don't know if any of them are officially looking at football. I've gotten a lot of questions since we started ours from other ADs, other schools, about our process, and I know, so I think there's maybe some informal discussions going on at other institutions, but I wouldn't be my place to comment on who those are, but I think there are some, at least early, where we would have been 6-7 years ago, maybe some of those, a couple of schools that are at that stage.
And did I hear correctly that to have a conference in football, you'd have to have 6 teams?
Correct.
Indeed, the Crossroads League wanted to have a football conference, you'd have to add at least 2 more.
Right.
Now that you have one.
Right, we'll be school number 4 in the Crossroads League, and you have to have 6. If we could get 2 more schools to add football or add 2 schools to the Crossroads League that have football, then Crossroads League would become a football conference sanctioned by the NAI.
Mark, will the head football coach have other duties as far as teaching or anything like that within the university, or strictly football head coach?
Right now, they will be full head coach. That's the plan, and then some of the full-time assistants would have other duties assigned within the athletic department. But right now, with the big job it is to build a football program with the expectations we'll have for a head coach in building the football program, we want that football coach to be able to focus on doing that and doing that right and building that foundation I mentioned earlier. So they'll be a full-time coach to begin with. Yeah.
Question along the line of the April Fools. Is it any coincidence that Antoine Randall is speaking here tonight on campus?
That is complete coincidence, and I actually have been asked that a couple times already today, and that is absolutely a complete coincidence, yes. And he was outstanding in chapel today, by the way, from what I've been told. Other questions, yeah?
Someone online asked if it would create other jobs, probably like, facilities, things like that.
Yeah, there's a whole support staff implementation that we have with the addition of football. Obviously, football is a big undertaking that requires a lot of people outside of a coaching staff to make sure that it's run well and at the same time doesn't negatively impact our other programs. So we'll be adding several new positions administratively and support staff-wise that will help us be able to build the football program right without it hurting the way we serve our other sports teams.
Mark, are you looking at lights at the stadium so you can play a Saturday night game versus a Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, our plan right now would be to put lights on the stadium. That would be part of phase 2, would be a lighted stadium. So we do have that option to have special occasions. And one of the other great things that we haven't even talked about with adding football are the other opportunities and benefits it brings to the university. We have an outstanding conference services program that do amazing things throughout the year and amazing things in the summer. And having a football stadium that's lighted open up all kinds of opportunities for them to bring other events, whether it's marching bands or drum and bugle corps or rallies or concerts to our campus throughout the year and especially in the summer. So it's a really exciting opportunity that goes beyond just football that a football stadium brings in, and lights are a big part of that. Other questions? We will have posted on the athletic website all the information that those of you in attendance today have, a fax question sheet that anyone will have access to through our website. If you have any questions about some of the details about the program, those will be provided. And we will be sure to keep everyone updated as we make progress towards the inauguration of IW Wildcat football. We appreciate everyone being here today and for your interest in IW athletics and the future of Wildcat football. And we're always available for any more questions as you need them. Thank you.